Hi, everybody. My name is Jessie, and maybe you know me from Twitch or YouTube, or maybe the algorithm sent me to you. But this is a story of how I've wasted my 20s and why it all stops now. So I'm 29 and a half, and I've basically have 6 months left of my 20s, and I absolutely refuse to live the last half of this year in the way that I've lived the past essentially decade of my life. Something has really clicked within the last 2 weeks, and I'm just so absolutely so tired of wasting my time. But more than anything, I am tired of the biggest fears I have ruling my life. And so maybe the internet isn't the best place to disclose my biggest fears or just share them with the world. But in some ways, doing this helps me overcome one of them. Essentially, there's been two big broad fears that have essentially ruled the way that I've made decisions over the last decade. The first biggest fear I have, and I think a lot of people hopefully can relate to this, is it's too late and there's not enough time. And so I've gone through my 20s thinking it's too late and there's not enough time, when this is the era of experimentation, finding who you are. But I've literally felt like I've been racing. And the other fear that's also really guided a lot of my decisions, it's that I'm not good enough. And on top of that, if I share my life, and I'm not afraid of just judgment in general, like people saying bad things about me or they don't like my hair or whatever, but it's more that fear of them thinking that I'm not a good person. So it's really, I'm not good enough and there's not enough time. While I know now that there's no such thing as wasting time, like you can really learn from every single mistake you've made, every single decision you've made, I couldn't help but get to my late 20s and just feel sheer panic because I really let these fears fester. And especially when I reached my 27th year, maybe it was like that meme.
I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened.
Um, or maybe it was that I started adding late to the beginning of my decade, so late 20s. But I really suddenly began to look at everything I had done and saw nothing. I basically worked the last 7 years and had nothing to show for it. And it all kind of starts with me achieving one of my biggest dreams, which was to become a fashion designer. And it was something that I know I'm still young, so it's like, oh, one of my biggest dreams of my life, but it really was. I had wanted to be a designer since I was 10 years old. And I really think that I grew up in the era that it was pushing for two things. Like essentially, you're supposed to live out your dreams, reach for the stars, all that stuff, and also pursue a 9 to 5, get a solid education, have security. So I felt like I was in this pivotal point where there were these two things I was being told. So a lot of people, I feel like in my generation or around me, felt that kind of pull and then tried to marry the two. So for me, marrying my talent or passion for art with design and with a career would be fashion design. I think being a creative person, people see that talent, it's very tangible, very physical. And I think sometimes adults tend to see that talent and then push kids towards that career. And I think I was one of those things, and no fault to them at all. It's just kind of what we know. It's like, what are you going to be when you grow up? And oh, I see you're good at this thing. You should do that thing. And I feel like it put a lot of pressure on my creativity I didn't feel fulfilled. And when something that you've pursued your whole life suddenly doesn't meet expectations or isn't the way that you expected to be, there's definitely a moment of fear that happens. And I think that's where I started to let these fears really in. And in a pursuit of trying to find a passion to replace the passion that I had, or a dream, or something to work towards, I tried tons of different things. And I really was like, okay, I'm 22 now, 23 now, 24 now. I need to like pursue a career and get the career that I was supposed to have as a fashion designer, supposed to be passionate about this, want this thing. And so I tried a bunch of different things. I tried yoga, which as anyone does when they're having an existential crisis. But I did that. I tried more different types of design. I tried photography. I shot weddings. I tried modeling for a little bit. I worked in restaurants and nightlife. And I'm thankful because while I may have wasted a lot of time, air quotes, I don't have a lot of what if questions left. But one thing that really did give me a passion or make me feel like I had a purpose was I wanted to go to medical school. If you know that that career path, you can know it can be extremely competitive. And for somebody who struggles with not feeling good enough, you can see why that did not work out pretty well. My fears had grown so big. I felt so worthless and I felt so strapped for time. And of course, when you're pursuing a career in medical school or in medicine, it takes time, it takes years. And so I had been switching careers so quickly, looking for a quick fix, that I hit this wall. But that aside, I quit. And it wasn't like I was when I was 23. I found myself at 27 and completely lost. And I was hoping that I would get lucky or something would take off. And newsflash, sometimes luck, you can't make it in that way. The one thing, there's like two things that kind of, I think, grounded me though and kept me from like completely falling off the edge and feeling completely worthless. One of them is my relationship with my partner, because I couldn't have done anything that I've done without him. But the other one too is my Twitch channel. And I started it without any expectation. And it ended up being something that was so fulfilling for me. And I absolutely love it. It was something that I started because I wanted to just have something creative to do that wasn't school. And I realize now how important that was for me. Over the last year, I've started working on really understanding myself, like what I'm scared of, why I don't pursue certain things, and why I keep quitting. But now, instead of avoiding it and just leaving things because I'm too scared to commit, it's like I'm learning to live with it. And that keyword being live. So I want to live out the last 6 months of my 20s doing all these things I was absolutely too scared to do, starting with this YouTube channel, because I now know that I am good enough and my story is worth sharing. And it doesn't matter if I don't have a strong resume or if I gave up on a lot of things that I shouldn't have given up on. I know that if this video maybe makes it out to one soul that feels rather lost or alone like I did, then it's absolutely worth it. I wanted to start a YouTube channel since I was 20. So it's been 9 years and I haven't done it, but I finally officially said yes. I'm actually just doing this for the very best part of myself. I'm trying to do the hard things and fun things that I've always wanted to do in my 20s, and I didn't because I was too freaking scared. And I don't want to waste any more time. Like, why waste any more time? It's absolutely never too late. So this video is a first check mark of many. I'm gonna do the things that I've always wanted to do. Like, I'm gonna try to swim every day because I haven't done that in years. And I'm basically giving my young 20 self, even my childhood self, the things that she always wanted. Maybe swimming every day. I'm picking up Pilates again. I want to read again. Yeah, maybe I'll ride a horse, and maybe I'll actually dare to be competitive and hit diamond in one of my favorite video games. But the biggest goal I have is that at the end of this 6 months, I really want to quit my 9 to 5 and really live a full life in the way that I feel I can live out my purpose in the biggest, best, most fearless, authentic way. Today marks day one of living that way. I really think that my 20s are going to be the last 6 months of my 20s are going to be a wild ride, but I'm bringing you along with me if you want to join. Thanks for watching my first goal of the last 6 months of my 20s, and I can't wait to see you next time.